Hi, thank you for clicking on Talkin Jit. I will warn you on this episode, there are definitely parts that get a little bit graphic, so I'm going to say viewer discretion must be advised because we go into a little bit of my cousin's story who is now back to civilian life. He decided to dive into a little bit of a scout sniping career with the Marines. Everything he had to do to push through, some of the tragedies he dealt with, and some of the trauma he actually pushed through. So there are a little bit tidbits here and there that can get a little bit graphic. I just want to warn you up front. But nonetheless, this man is a hero, a veteran. I'm honored to call him family. And I hope you enjoy this episode about perseverance and overall mental toughness. If I had anyone to put it to, that guy would be the poster child for it. Thanks for clicking, and us.
They try to drown me, I can swim upstream so profoundly. I can stay calm in a dire situation. I'm at it every day, no time for a vacation. And I smell blood in the water. Everything I do, yeah, I do it for my daughters. Now I'm gonna shut your lips. It's time for a brand new episode of what? We talking jit, say what? We talking jit, say what? We talking jit, say what? We talking jit, said it's time for a brand new episode of Talkin Jit.
All right, now it's time to go fucking crazy, man. Get crazy.
Let's do it.
Get comfy, man. Are you comfortable?
I'm in bed.
Yeah, there's no better way to do it.
Leaning up against the bedboard.
Well, thanks for hopping on.
Absolutely.
And for the audience, thanks for reaching out. This is actually my crazy cousin, one of two of the crazy MFers. Dude, I should make you guys fight for the BMF belt.
You think you could get Max on board?
Oh.
He'd swing that shillelagh around and like knock someone's fucking throat in.
But then again, that just becomes more ammo in the mix. It's like gladiator match.
That's even cooler. Yeah.
Anyway, see, I can't stop these ideas.
You're speaking to the wrong person to stop your ideas.
With you, we could have like 10 different podcasts. I think they would all be great. But this one, there's no rules.
Okay.
I'm thinking about kind of focusing on the scout sniping thing because that's one thing that I think would be great for the audience to hear about because it's not your average typical thing. On a podcast centered around mentality, there's a high fallout rate for that, just for the sniper school alone, let alone all the other accolades you carry. I just thought it'd be something really cool to get into. I mean, there's a lot of subjects to touch base on in there. And
yes.
If you're down to talk about that, I'm down to talk about that. What do you say?
Absolutely. Like I said before, ask a question, and if it's something I can't talk about or will, it's all is well. That's fine.
Challenge accepted. What motivated you what motivated you to join the Marines, let alone go through scout sniping school? And for the audience, why did you choose that, and why did you choose to take it a step further and get into sniping?
Well, I was a pig with 1.5 for 2009. Almost 4 years. It was the last part of my my service. But why I don't? So let me tell you a story. I was an 0311 when it was a rifleman. That was my contract going into the Marine Corps. So I was like hell bent on that whole concept. Me and my brother, we wanted to be. It was like, the borderline. I don't know how much I can say on here, but like retarded. Like, we want to go to war. Like fucking. So what happened to me though is right after School of Infantry, I got yoked up and went to DC. I had no clue that there was even Marines in DC. I was so naive, and I was like, it was like a fucking Forrest Gump like moment. I was like riding on this bus. I'm like, oh man, there's snow and shit, and we had this barracks, and so I ended up getting yoked into 8th and I, which was and I went into silent drill school, which is like the guys you see on the fucking commercials, like doing all the drills and stuff, and like doing like NFL shows, and I got straight into that. I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, I'm a rifle. I'm like, God. In my head, I was like, fuck me. you know. But like I obviously wherever you're at, you got to do the best you can in your position, no matter what. And I fucking made it on the side. So in the silent drill platoon, it's called the Marching 22. So even if you make it on the platoon, you have to be better than everybody else to even go out there and do the ceremonies and stuff like that. And so it's a constant competition. So that kind of sparked that. I always had that mentality of like, I'm just going to be the fucking, why not? Why stop? You know, like fuck. And so I made it there. Eventually I had the opportunity to, even when I was there, I actually became an instructor for him for the last year I was there. And then I got to travel the fucking world there. And so I got the PCS, which is where you change commands and where you're going to be stationed. I went to 1-5. And you got to understand, when you go from fucking the drill field, or not the drill field, but fucking 8th and I, over to like the fleet, that's what they called. What do you mean?
Like all the platoons and stuff you're talking about. Is this like, are you in training? Are you a Marine, or are you like?
No, I'm a Marine. This is like a position I was taking. Like I was on a silent drill platoon, and then
Okay.
eventually time was up, and you get like kind of a fucking lottery, and you have a choice. But then they kind of send you wherever they want you to be. And I ended up transferred to Camp Pendleton, 1st Battalion, 5th Marines. At the time, the rest of the battalion was in Ramadi, and then the other, and I think they were coming off was it Garmshire or shit, Marja. Anyways, I by the time I got to that unit, they were still deployed, and so I came into what was called the Remain Behind Battalion, which is like literally consisted of either guys that were legitimately hurt and couldn't deploy, or the bitches that like made excuses that didn't want to deploy.
Mm.
So like the entire fucking time, like you do stupid shit all like clean the fucking bear. Like there was one, I shit you not, I'm like sweeping fucking water in the parking lot in the rain, painting rocks and relocating them. It was like, oh my fucking, I hate this shit, but this is hilarious at the same time.
Is that all
So then,
designed to break you down?
yeah, well, no, it's because he's just like, there's nothing to do. All these guys are the pieces of shit that didn't want to deploy, or the ones that were stuck there that couldn't, you know. But I just came into it because I transferred at the time they were coming back from one. So this guy comes around, staff sergeant, I forget his name actually, but he's like, hey, he's like, there's a recon in doc coming up. Is anyone interested in recon? And I was like, fuck yeah. So like, I raised my hand thinking I was gonna be like a part of a group, you know. And I was literally the only one that raised my fucking hand, and everyone started fucking laughing at me. And I was like, man, okay, well, anyways, yeah, put my name down. And he's like, all right. So he took my information down. About 2 weeks or so later, he comes back and he goes, who was it that raised their hand? This is all at the end of the day, you know. And for the recon, and I was like, me, and he's like, it was like, it's not a recon, it's scout snipers. And I was like, sounds like a fucking plan to me again. Hands up, you know. And he's like, all right. But what they did, and I won't name any names or anything like that. I mean, it's probably old enough to not even give a fuck. But they fucked me with the date, and so I was told a date. Oh, so actually, the return to your question, why I did it, I don't know. Like I just always drawn. I think I was the kid. Like as a kid, was the one that like watched the commercial that was like saw the fucking Marine in dress blues fighting the dragon. I mean, I was like, fuck yeah. You know, in my head, I'm like, oh, fucking Navy SEAL, Marine, fucking, like, you know, I mean, I was like, I just had that drive. And so every time I did something, especially from boot camp, it felt, I had no off button. And I can't really explain it, but it was just like, there was no reason not to keep going and be part of a smaller and smaller group, you know? And that's what ended up happening. And so, fast forward 2 weeks from this fucking asshole giving me the wrong date, and I show up in the door for my interviews, and this guy Patino answers the door, and he actually ended up later on, unfortunately, losing his life, and but he answered the door so fucking quick, and he's like, what the fuck you want? And I was like, fucking Jesus Christ. I went like straight to fucking parade rest, and I was like, I'm here for the fucking, he was a corporal, you know, and I was, I'm here for the interviews. And he's like, what the fuck you talking about? I soon realized it was like day one of the indoc, and I was like, oh, the fucking, he just like grabbed me by fucking shit right here. And he's like, "You still want to do this?" And I was like, "Yes." At the time, I was fucking retarded. I was like, "Yes, Corporal, I do." So he like marched me through the sniper hooch where like everyone's already getting fucked up, and like then up to S2 on the second deck and where my platoon commander was, and now probably one of my, a part of a family of mine now, obviously. Awesome group of guys. He was sitting across this desk. He's like, "You still want to do this?" I was like, "Yes, sir." He's like, "Get the fuck in my hooch." And from that point on, like, I had nothing. Like, I was not even supposed to, like, I was supposed to go home that night. And
He just threw you in it? He just threw you right in the mix?
yeah, and so I didn't have any of the gear on the gear list. I didn't have any I was completely unprepared, because I was lied to about the date. So as a joke, but it worked out because like what happened was every time someone dropped, I just gained their gear. So like a guy would drop, I'd get their boots. Another guy would drop, I'd get his fucking ruck. Another guy would drop, I'd get his socks. And it was like I just by the end of the fucking indoc, I had a full fucking gear list, and I was like cruising.
That's pretty motivating.
Yeah.
Like if I just wait a little bit longer, I'll get some socks.
I know. You want to know the weirdest part about that indoc though?
Yeah.
Is the last part of it, because it's the small things that motivate you. Do you remember the other day we were talking about you can find relief in like every second?
Yeah.
So the last bit of that exercise was like this. Fuck, I don't even know how. So what you do is like you're sleep deprived, Jesus Christ, sorry, I'm speaking too fast. A lot of sleep deprivation and hunger, and so you don't eat, you don't sleep, and so the last thing you do is you go on this like final mission for the indoc at least, and you get dropped off, and then you have to hike in. You have full gear, it's like the heavy rugs to make it real. You find a hide, and then you have to observe this like objective, and but afterwards, that's not the point I'm making. They do this E&E drill, which is called escape and evade. So basically, you're compromised, and you pick up all your shit and pack it up. Make sure you don't leave any like target indicators and stuff like that around your hide site, and you embark on this like. It's not even the worst thing you do afterwards, but this was like a defining moment for me because you go on this hump that just is longer than you expect, and it's in the middle of the night. I remember everyone had to attach these glow sticks on the back of their rucks. I ended up probably a mile in this motherfucker, like tearing my meniscus, legitimately tearing my meniscus. I mean, you can't see, it was pitch black on a hill. They call them hills, fucking mountains out there in Camp Pendleton, but like, it's a good time. And I fucking went down. I'm like, "Go fuck." And I was like, "I'm faking this shit. I'm just getting up. I'm just gonna like wobble like a baby deer until I fucking." So, but the only thing in my mind, I'm getting to the small things. All I wanted was a fucking omelet from the chow hall. For some reason, I love the omelets at the chow hall. And I was like, tomorrow morning, I'm getting an omelet. And I'm just like, I just tore my meniscus. I'm so fucking dead ass tired. I have no fucking food. And I'm just like, I'm in my head, the entire thing, I was just picturing a fucking omelet. And eventually, my gunny at the time, Poskill, awesome man too, as well as my commander at the time. But he gets out of the Humvee. He's like, "Get in the fucking Humvee." And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "That's not a fucking question." He's like, "That's an order." He's like, "Get in the fucking Humvee." And I said, "No, gunnery sergeant, no." And I was like doing the whole, I'm like, I was convinced they were going to have to physically fucking throw me in it. You know what this guy did as a leader?
Hmm.
He got his gear by the Humvee, threw a fucking ruck on, and walked the rest of it with me the entire way.
That's awesome. Let's break that down a little bit too. Like that's one thing. Oh, with my MMA training, there's
Yep.
a long time ago where our team kind of broke up. The team that I was on,
Yeah.
our leader sucked going into leading with this. Kind of abandoned people, picked favorites. He just was narcissistic, and then so there was like a little bit of time where I had to do everything myself. I had to go find a jiu-jitsu gym. I had to find a striking gym. I had to get work with who I could, talk to promoters. Like, a lot of times at a gym, the gym owner or people in the gym have these connections or it's all there. You got different coaches in one gym, but I had to go solo.
Yeah.
One thing I remembered was my buddy. I went to a wrestling practice, a wrestling meet from my school, my high school, but it was off season. So I got to like show up off season where we had the whole gym and do like a couple wrestling practices with the team. I never wrestled. Like I just had friends who were wrestlers that helped me out and showed me stuff.
Right.
What I thought was the coolest freaking thing, and I still to this day keep it in mind, is like there's one thing about coaches, and the way you put it is leaders. The one that tells you what to do, my old coach, who would literally lay on the mat and just tell you what to do. And then there's this guy who was doing the class with the people while yelling direction out at them. So you're doing like burpees and he's like yelling, "2, louder." And for, most people who listen, I feel like train and understand. But for those who don't, that in itself is hard because not only are you exerting yourself, but you're not breathing. You're yelling, you're coaching, you're paying attention to everyone around you. You're not just like trying to focus and get yourself through. You're like suffering with everyone and making sure everyone's on the point with you.
It's that extra 5%, you know?
Yeah. And so that's huge for the dude to get out. I thought you were going to tell me that he left you and made you walk alone, which would
No,
also, but
I was the last one, and so I come back into the chem lights in the back of the rucks. It was kind of a disheartening feeling to be. I was hurt, and so like doesn't give a. I mean, it's not an excuse, but I was definitely the last one in the march, and I just remember how bleak of a feeling it was when I looked up into the hills and I could see higher than I was walking all these chem lights, you know, and all I could see was the chem lights. And I'm like, God, motherfuck, and I was like, but then I remember also marching literally into the sunrise with him. And then I didn't even realize I made it until like I walked down at the hooch, you know, and they're like, "What are you fucking doing? Like you fucking made it," you know. I was like, you know what I mean? It was just like one of those memories.
Yeah. So that omelet got you through all that, huh?
A fucking omelet.
Was it the best omelet you've ever had at that point?
So here's the ironic part about that. I ended up not even getting an omelet because they were open, and then I got a Carl's Jr. burger.
Oh, I'm not surprised, dude. For the scout training, the scout sniper training, I remember our uncle telling me about some of the stuff you guys are going through. I think while you're going through it, actually, he just mentioned it because I worked on the boat with him a lot and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've also seen a special on it, and like it was crazy because everything from the documentary I watched matched a lot of what our uncle said to me. But I wanted to get into some of that the crazy parts of training. I know you guys have
That everyone has unique experiences, yeah.
and then doing push-ups so your hands are melting on the pavement, stuff like that. So tell me about some of the crazy training.
I have to be careful here. But I was the coolest. So
alleged training.
After you're in that platoon, so you immediately start after you make the indoc as pigs. You start every day is training, which is awesome because every day has a purpose, whether it be land navigation, stalking, shooting, a lot of shooting, trust me, and then field craft, combatives. I mean, it was just a lot of stuff, you know, and in between normal days while you're together, you're getting sent to schools, you know, mountain survival school, whatever it may be, or, you know, everyone just goes down. They send people to different schools and have different specialties under the belt for the deployment that's coming up. And so I would say probably one of the, are you talking like crazy training or like crazy memories out of training? Because I got some good ones.
Let's do a couple, like crazy encounters or one of the hardest things you had to push through in training.
In training, man, let me think about that one.
And just for the listeners, man, like you're setting up like long range shots. I mean, you're training sniping, right? You're an endurance.
That's a lot. So if you're not shooting, there's a lot that goes into it. If you're not because even within shooting, it's so much. Equations. I mean, there's verbiage. I mean, that kind of platoon is so finite and so it hits you with a giant sense of accountability, responsibility for being different, all the way down to we had to memorize definitions by the period, and if we didn't know them by the period, commas and everything else, we got fucked up. You know what I mean? It was like, and so there's equations you had to learn, concepts, skills. If it wasn't shooting, it was something else. You know, but like it was also an extreme atmosphere of mental toughness. Like nobody gave a fuck, and like that was kind of the contest. You know what I mean? And so
Here we go. This is what I'm looking for.
kind of hard to choose from because that was probably the pinnacle of men I was around in my entire Marine Corps experience.
Like, don't give a fuck in what way? Just like
like staring death in the face and spitting in his fucking eyeballs. You know, like fuck them. But also extremely skilled in every single endeavor they took on, and different breed. You know, my mom used to say cut from the same thread, and it's just like our birds of a feather flock together. I believe that people are gravitated to a certain spot for a reason, you know. But those guys, so to think of the hardest training experience, I gotta think. I remember there's there's a lot, but like I feel like I'm going down the rabbit hole. Hold on.
that's what we do here. Give me one hard one.
One hard one was and this is a hard one. It was also a really cool one. I'll mix it all together. That'll work. It was this field effects we were doing in Bridgeport for this, you know, mountain training and stuff like that, cold weather, and we got dropped off for this like traditional sniper type mission, and there's like role players, you know, out in the wilderness, and so they were Taliban. We had to find them and like do our mission, whatever the fuck, and it was so fucking cold. Like I just remember being so for the first time in a long time, like that kind of fucking cold. And because what you do is you don't want to put too many layers on. Initially, you're gonna have a long way to go because you're gonna sweat through them, stuff like that. You wear the least amount of layers at first because you're working up your heat, you know, and then when you get paused, if you have layers to put on, you can put them on, warm up, stuff like that, so you're not sweating through your shit and getting hypothermic. But we went a very long time. It was like a soft top Humvee. We get dropped off in this mountainside, and we do our fucking thing. I just remember being so cold, I couldn't think about anything but just moving my feet. And I was like, damn, this fucking sucks. And like, but my team leader at the time, awesome dude, and he's like fucking bouncing around, you know, and it was like, that's the motivation you see. He didn't give a fuck. And so I was like, I don't give a fuck either. I'm fucking hypothermic. The cool part of this story was we get to this spot. It was like an outcrop and like these big ass standing stones on the side of this mountain, and they like looked out into this awesome valley, into this tree line, and sure as shit, we see movement, and I was like, shit, there's a Taliban, but they were like, you know, role players. And we set up this it's called hot rack. So we had one sleeping bag. That's all we were allowed to have at the time, and we had to rotate. Like if you weren't in the sleeping bag, you're on watch, and then one guy's on the glass, you know, watching, observing, taking down notes, doing field sketches, and ranging things out. But during that time, so we had this. I can't even say the name of these things, but we had this optic that we could see at night with like thermal vision. It was thermal. It was like a thermal night vision optic. I just don't want to say the name of it. Okay. It was loud as fuck, I will say that. And I was like, God, good thing we're in the fucking mountains. So I'm on these LRT, I'm on these optics. I pass it because I see movement because I'm like, just like fucking freezing, shaking. You know what I mean? I'm like, God, this fucking sucks. This is fucking awesome. This fucking sucks. There's this big ass cat. And so like, I look, I'm like, hey, no fucking way, dude. And I'm like looking, and it's a mountain lion. I'm like, I'm passing. I woke up my team leader. I'm like, hey, just so you know. And he looks, he's like, we have a problem. I go, I know. And so we picked up the rest of the entire exercise. That motherfucking thing tracked us. And we had to have like a 24-hour fucking guy on the rear making sure that like where he fucking was. Eventually it worked itself out. it worked itself out in a mistake we made in the training exercise, honestly. But it was just one of those weird kind of mix of experiences.
Damn. So like that thing was almost like a snitch because it could.
It kept coming. It just was tracking us. It was tracked us for
So-
3-5 days. Every time we we had to look at it with the fucking things.
It's probably quieter than you, but like, damn, that would suck if it gave up your position. Like sitting there,
Here,
little snitch ass mountain lion.
Snitch-ass.
So how do you like how do you track? How do you like reverse track that thing?
No, we didn't actually, because you don't want to. Because you keep it out because it just they hide their kills.
Really?
Yeah, they like bury them under leaves and shit like that. So it's like it's not really the common practice to come back on their trail.
Yeah. So, but like, how do you keep an eye out for it? Because
We just watch. You know what I mean? And we just, as long as you have an eye, like it was a matter of being awake and being observant. That's all.
if it attacked you, were you actually armed?
That was the problem. So no, we had no like real rounds. We had blanks, but we had knives. I mean, we probably would have fucked. I mean, if a mountain lion attacks, it's definitely getting somebody. Between 5 Marines, it's definitely dying as well. Yeah.
Kick that stupid thing's ass.
Okay.
That's so wild. I know a guy who was just told me a story. He was hiking here in Florida, down south, and he had not a mountain lion, a Florida panther tracking him.
Oh, that's awesome.
He said he was finding the prints first, and then he realized he was being stalked. After like a while, he realized like he must have come across like it's turf, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it never got him, so he thinks it was just like scouting him out. But he said for like 2 hours, it was on him, and he could smell it from time to time. And he said, but he could not ever really see it until he got up. Like he found elevation and started looking. And he said, like, I think he caught like a glimpse at one point, but it might have been when it was leaving.
Shit.
That's got to be a crazy feeling being stalked by like a mountain lion. You know what I mean?
I don't think I really even knew the magnitude of the situation. We just kept an eye on it. Is that gonna be a problem?
What is that? Oh, no, go ahead, bro. Do your thing. This is a safe space.
Oh,
except for people who don't feel safe anywhere they go.
That's their problem, not ours.
Sorry about the delay, folks. All right.
Nope, I'm here.
All right. Do you have... Oh, you ready?
Yep.
Do you have any memorable... I'm sure you got plenty of memorable, but what are some of your best memorable like missions?
Probably the good ones. It was like it was the ones that, like, for me, it was the ones that didn't involve with any like bad shit happening. It was like the ones that like kind of made me feel like I was on vacation. And like I remember this one. Well, I know it was half and half. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoy, well, not in a psychopath way, but I did enjoy the when like shit went wrong. Not for our guys, but like when like you're in like what you're there for. You kind of have that. That's why you're there. Not that you're like a warmonger or whatever. Fuck people, but my favorite missions though were the ones that like made vivid memories for myself. I have this one. Actually, I'm gonna speak. It just came to my mind, and so I'm just gonna talk about it. Nothing happened, but except for this, there was an IED strike. I'm just kind of weird about saying names, but he was gunny. He was killed investigating an IED. It was an IED strike, and so my team was sent out to do, it's called a battle damage assessment, BDA, and then occupy a compound in the area to possibly engage whoever came back in to do their own BDA, because the Taliban, they did their own BDAs too. They're smart. They're not dumb fucking like ooga booga guys. They're fucking badass fighters, trust me. And our job was to go in there in the middle of the night and wait for him. So nothing ever happened that night, but I will say the adrenaline was completely fucking sky high the entire time. You can't go to sleep. You're waiting for the fucking enemy to come in. And at least you think so. But this memory, my best friend, Josh Robinson, I'll say his name. He was killed, but this night he was still alive, and he was my hero. Like everything about him was like, and you know what's crazy? Like I'm an identical twin, and he had an identical twin named Jake, who died when they were kids, and so we became like instant friends, and it was just very close. So this mission, we sneak into this compound, and we're watching so we decided to sleep in the courtyard because it's like the best spot. You know, we were kind of like the ones that like were like, let's just like sleep by the fucking door. You know, like, so we were in the compound. Well, we could see the door. We laid against this bread maker that was like in the middle of the courtyard, and we could see the front door, and like there was this like stairwell that led up to this parapet running along that came along the top of the ceiling or the roofs and stuff. We could see them both. I figured we could just he leaned one way back, and I leaned another way back, and so we could just like, even if we're like relaxed, we could pull the fucking trigger, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it turned into this whisper conversation because we had to be very, very quiet, obviously, and the sky was so fucking clear. I mean, it was like you could. I felt like I could see every star in the universe. Josh was very well versed in and educated in a lot of wilderness like knowledge, everything from navigation. He was a PBA fucking bull rider before he joined the Marine Corps. And he was like a rancher. All this fucking he taught mountain sniper. He was like the pinnacle of like, just fucking listen to me. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
We were laying there this night in this fucking compound at dead of night, trying to be quiet as fuck. We having this little whisper conversation in our little positions, and he just taught me about the constellations, and which every single one was, what it meant, where you could see it, in which hemisphere, what direction you're facing if you see a certain one at the same time. And it was like this whole thing, the whole night, and all we did was talk about the stars. Those are the ones that I remember.
It's like a movie.
I know.
Like a scene out of a movie playing in my head.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
remember.
Again, it's kind of like the light things that kind of stuck with you.
Yep. Always is.
The small little things.
Yeah.
And then, like you said, nothing happened that night.
Nope. Not a single fucking thing.
When so they're like sneaky and stuff, you're saying. I was always under the impression that it was like, you know, not a big deal. I feel like that's kind of how they sell it here. But when you're going against them, I mean, how much different is like the perspective they give the public on like what's really going on out there?
It's pretty different. I feel like I'll speak truth to this any day of the fucking week. I feel like not everybody, you know, I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'm not going to be that kind of guy, but like, I feel like certain individuals here, they think of, at least at the time, I think it maybe spawned from Iraq, or I don't know what everyone's mentality was, but they think of them as these like fucking like dumb fucking villagers that are just like throwing spears and just like shooting and running off, or you know, like, and it was like, that's it. It's like these, they are formidable fighters, absolute formidable fighters. There's a reason we had a problem, and even in our expertise, they caught us off guard. Even in all the training we went through, they won certain fucking firefights. You know, I mean, these guys don't fuck around. They've been doing it for 100. Alexander the Great could even do it in the same region. Think about that. We're just the next bunch.
Do they just know the terrain? It seems like they're always beefing. Maybe they're just always warmed up.
They're steady warmed up, trust me.
Mm-hmm.
But so I just never. I remember my first patrol. I read all these books before I went over, and I was like, I read all these Vietnam books. I read all these books about Afghanistan, the Muslim religion. I wanted to know everything about them so I can at least try and understand. I read language books. I read fucking, damn, I read like parts of the Quran just to like understand their fucking ferocity. Like I was trying to go there, you know,
Mm-hmm.
try and be a good warrior in that way and understand my enemy. Even then, they caught me off guard, and I was like, "Fuck!" I remember my first patrol. It's like you can't really um, prepare yourself for that because even the way in, damn. So this is a. Do you mind if I speak on this for a little bit?
Whatever, man. Go ahead.
So me and my brother were together on the same platoon. We flew into this certain patrol base.
Which that's pretty crazy, right? Like they don't often put brothers on.
No. Yeah, it's very, very, very unique. Very unique. And we weren't on the same team though. He was on team 3. I was on team 2. We went into this certain patrol base, or it was a fob actually. We flew in a Chinook helicopter in the middle of the night, and then that night we got divvied out to what patrol base we were going out to. I was leaving first, and I ended up going like the furthest north to where it was like the best best spot, like what you're there for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like I got the fucking lucky ticket, and but I had to say goodbye to my brother, and it was this weird experience of it. That's when it dawned on me when I said goodbye to my brother, and I was like, holy fuck! I just found out I'm going to like fucking Indian country. You know, like fuck yeah. At the same time, shit. This might be the last time I see my fucking twin brother. Real like instantaneously, realistically, you know, I could like leave the gate and it's fucking done, you know. But so that was kind of heavy. We took this nighttime ride in an open top 7-ton, and I just remember driving, and the first thing that hit me was the smells, and it was like burnt rubber, fucking like shit. Like it was this weird pungent smell that was just like really heavy. There was fires burning, you know, you're driving past incidences that already happened, bullet holes in the fucking walls, you know, like debris. It was just so I was like, that's when it hit me, and I was like, shit, I'm actually doing what I actually was doing. You know what I mean? I was like, God, awesome. At the same time, I was like, oh fuck. But it just kind of left a dark memory. We get into this, and they were just so fucking like, I mean, it was like walking into a bunch of Aztec warriors, you know. They were just like, not only were they so shot the fuck out, I mean, there was no, you can't fucking touch them, you know. Like, they've been to the fucking ringer. I didn't realize that, like, we would be next. I did, but I didn't, looking at them then.
Like, that's your future?
Yeah, and the next day was my first patrol. The very next day. I remember walking actually into this. Another thing that made this impact on me was in this patrol base. We walked through, and snipers had a special area, and it was like this HESCO barrier gate that they made, and it had the Shadow Man on it. And the Shadow Man is like the symbol of the West Coast sniper. It's like I'll have to send it to you. It's basically a Marine in a ghillie suit, and within the ghillie suit shows the shape of a skull. It was painted on a perfect fucking Shadow Man, painted on this HESCO barrier door, and it said, and it was like a warning, like, you don't fucking pass here. You know, I just remember being like enamored by it. You know, so I just fucking swung the door open. Anyways,
dude,
that was our what?
It's like a video game.
It's crazy, and so I you know, that's where we stayed for the longest time until we moved north. Anyways, the next day, what would usually happen, a typical day, was they would send out a rifle platoon, and it would be like movement to contact. So you patrol until like you get fucking ambushed, unless you had an objective to go figure out, or an assault that we were making as a company. And I remember them leaving. I was still like waking up in the morning, and they were pushing out at the gate and stuff. And it was like the first time I'm seeing kind of everything. And I'm getting my gear ready because I didn't even know what to expect. And I heard it before I was tasked with what I was doing. They patrolled out, and they got ambushed so fucking bad. I remember hearing it in the background from the patrol. And now they're calling for help. And so my first patrol was actually a movement to contact to get these guys out of their ambush. So I'm shitting my fucking pants. I've never experienced combat before in my fucking life. I never even operated on the sniper. I've done not a fucking thing in my life until then. And now I'm going to get these guys out of a fucking ambush. That's when I was like, my face kind of dropped, and I realized I had to be a much bigger person than I thought I needed to be. So we leave the fucking gate, and you go through all this training, AD training, fucking whatever, and so like you don't know where to look down or up because every step you take, you could fucking explode. But if you're not looking up, you might miss someone fucking shooting in the face. So it's like you just don't know where to fucking look. You're listening to fucking everything, even though your ears are ringing,
Right.
because your adrenaline, and for certain OPSEC reasons, I probably won't go into how that engagement went. We had a couple casualties, but I remember that was the first time I ever engaged somebody that day. It was on my first patrol. Yeah, day one.
How quick did you have to adapt, man? I mean, like it's like you get you hear like shit, I'm going in, and then I'm sure you get that adrenaline and that fight or flight kicking in.
I think the best part of it, and I kind of figured this out on my own, is like it's like jumping in the cold water. You just can't give yourself time to think about it that long. You just jump. You just go, and then once you're in it, you can think on that level because you're already in it.
That's what I've always done for competition.
Yeah.
I try not to think about it and just step on the mat.
You just go, and it's just like, oh, I'm here. So, okay, well, I'm here. That's it.
Time to perform,
Yep.
The best you can. Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Shit. Are you, I didn't know how like deep to get in with all that. Cause obviously, and for the listeners, there's like, war is just ugly. War is just, I haven't been there. Can't tell you, but just from stories from people I know and everything, it's brutal, right? I mean, how would you describe it? Like
war?
Yeah.
It's definitely the classic brutal, like vicious, dark. But for me, the weirdest part about it was it's weirdly nonchalant. I just remember just how quick shit happens, and how it's like, and I was like, fuck, like that guy's gone, or like even if you're the one doing it, everything was so. It's like there should be like a song playing in your head or something like that, or around us like a theme song, but it's not. It's literally just quick moments of like brutality, whether you're doing it or it's happening to someone else. It was always so weirdly nonchalant that made you have this deep feeling that anything can happen at any moment. It's like lasting. You know what I mean?
Do you think war is necessary?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Why so?
Because I believe, let me take that back. I believe it's necessary if there's a cause, because there's wars that are fought for wrong reasons. There's also people in this, like, evil exists. Evil exists, just like the fucking Lord of the Rings. Like, there's orcs out there. Sauron is fucking real, just like the devil's real. And people are out there doing evil fucking shit. And I'm quite okay with being part of the clan that opposes them and says, "What's up, motherfucker?"
So, all right, let's get a little deep in here. Or I want to get into this outlook too. So, we were talking the other day too. And it's weird because from the outside and stuff, you kind of think about it from a perspective. We were talking about the perspective of like a bunch of strangers out there killing each other over someone they don't know, like a stranger disagreements. And that's kind of where I'm coming from. Is there a necessary part to it? Because we sit here and we think a lot of it's over religion and land. So it's like,
right.
It's like, so, and I know this is so simple, and I know there's probably a lot of people right now banging their heads and like, this guy's a fucking idiot. But like, it's like a disagreement, No,
so that's the weird part. So I will agree with you on that, because killing over a disagreement I've never agreed with.
Like if you and I are kids and you take my toy, or you're on the playground too long,
right?
Imagine that turning into like war for years. Like this kid brought the slide first, there's
a difference though. There's a difference, because I will say war over religion is strange to me. Something like that is strange, because why can't you just exist in your own, to each their own, you believe, just why can't you live in peace? Like, war over religion has always been kind of strange to me, actually very strange to me. It's kind of like racism. It's always been strange to me. Why the fuck why is there even a judgment just because someone's a different fucking person.
Right.
It's strange to me. But when it
Well,
comes down to evil deeds, just like fucking ISIS, putting kids in cages, sinking them down to the bottom of a pool, putting them in cages and burning them, raping women, killing them in front of their fucking husbands, those people need to fucking die, because there's no worth of them on this planet except for bad fucking shit. So
okay.
fuck them.
So all right. So that's where you're saying it's necessary.
Correct.
But would you argue, damn, see, this is deep. This is tough. A whole war over that. Because in our society, that's wrong. There's laws. You get caught, you get fucked, right?
Yep.
But for us to be a part of a different continent, a different country, and I get it, they're probably so powerful they get away with it. It's a different societal structure, and
Very, very relative. Yep.
but like, is that worth so many people dying and planting mines and mortar strikes and ambushes and all the kind of shit you had to go through? Think of how many people those passed to get at the evil people. It's like, is there like, and then at the same time, is there another way to do it? Like, how the hell do you handle that issue?
I wish there was another way to do it, but when the other half is not willing, you have to be just like we created this country. It all comes down to the willing, even coming down to like how many people die from mines and everything else like that. It comes down to, there's no draft anymore. Everyone that's fighting it's all the willing, and half the fight, I would say, even a fucking street fight or a bar fight or something, if you're the willing one, you're pretty much fucking winning. If you're, you know what I mean? And so it's like, and so even in the birth of our country, it's like you come to a point of doing what's necessary. Even at those guys, even in the birth of our country, they sacrificed their entire fucking families for a greater cause. No, not their families, but they lost their families. They sacrificed their whole lives.
Mm-hmm.
Just like overseas, that we're willing to go over there and fight these fucking orcs. We're willing. And so, like, it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks, because we're doing what we believe in.
Right. And then on the other side of things, they believe we're the bad guys, we're the orcs.
Correct. And so that's why you can't even, like, you can never, I will say, if they're doing evil, fuck them.
So do we do?
Go ahead.
So do we just do this until the end of time, or until one team wins?
Well, not no more. We pulled out,
I'm just saying, like, when like you can, and then you can, like, with war, you can easily legitimize, like, okay, like, they're fighting over land, they're fighting over religion.
I know, it's weird.
They've been fighting for years, and it's like, okay, so what's the end game? Are you guys gonna just go until there's none of one side left, like the game of Risk, until you take it all?
It's attrition. No, it's attrition. Absolutely. Sometimes it comes to, just like, what about look at Ukraine and Russia? That is a total game of attrition right now.
We'll stay away from that topic, because that could go.
Yeah.
Oh, you calling me? Nah, hey, man.
About.
You just got me an extra view or two, bro. But yeah, you cost me. Yeah, I mean, dude, it's such a crazy subject when you get into it. It's like, and for people to understand your outlook too, like, and I don't know how much you're willing to go into your injury or yours and your brother's, like what you guys, like, it's not like you just went over there, did a job, and came back. Like, both you guys came back wounded,
Yeah.
And
I mean, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I was trying to think of I'll just be real with you. I was gonna think of like a light way to get into it, like to.
No, that's okay.
Talk about,
I mean,
and stuff, and how.
Do you want to take a pop of whiskey for this? Do you want to take a pop of whiskey for this one?
Get comfortable, brother.
All right.
As long as
take you with me. Yeah, no, I don't care.
I'm not.
I don't want to speak too much, because there's like certain, you understand.
Yes.
I'm listening. I'm just going into the darkness, get my pop of whiskey.
No, I mean, just whatever you're willing to share, man. I mean, like, because you've been battled, bruised, tested. I mean, the other day you're talking about how much you've been through for, the better good of the country.
Well, everybody, there's an endless amount of people that have done an exponentially amount more than me. I mean, like, that's part of the reason I joined the military because I was enamored by shit. You got me? Hold on. Damn it.
I thought you were trying to hide what brand whiskey you're doing. I thought you were embarrassed. Oh, nice.
But
Okay.
it's not mine, it's Amy's. But oh, that was part like I've done nothing compared to like my heroes, even my friends. I'll tell you that much. Like there's a song lyric from this band. Let me think about it. I'll look it up, but I'll tell you the story first. But basically it says the real ones aren't here. The real motherfuckers are not here.
Mm.
You know? And we're all, not saying that I'm not a real motherfucker, but like it's just you can't compare to someone who has experienced their death in the light of sacrifice. And I stay up at night thinking about it. So when my brother got hit, he was part of a night raid. I don't want to tell a story, but I do because he deserves it. And I was terrified.
I get that he's not here too.
I know. So I'm like, but
we can brush on it.
We'll brush on it because this is just my memory of it.
And it's part of your story too, which is insane.
It was my worst nightmare, coming true. And so I got, just before this, I got hit with a PKM round in the cheek.
Oh, you got hit before?
Yeah, before he did. And I returned back to my patrol base after getting hit in the cheek. And I was on this supporting his mission they were doing like this. I can't say too much. I'll keep it general. They were about to make entry into this building. And he stepped on it. He was a point man. He was a minesweeper.
Mm-hmm.
And he was having problems with the thing, and it was just like, man, it's like fucking Murphy lives in the Gauthier Podcast. I'm telling you right now.
Murphy a bitch.
Murphy's a bitch. Fuck him and his dog. No, I'm joking. But so he stopped for 2 seconds, and took the next step he took to make entry in this building. He fucking blew up, and it was a 60-pound. I can't believe he fucking survived it because he had a full fucking bandolier or a 203 belt, of 203 grenades. He had C4 in his fucking ruck, had grenades on his fucking chest. His team leader was behind him, and he stepped on it, and it was like lights out, and then all hell broke loose. The trees erupted. It was a complex ambush in the middle of the fucking night. And
Oh, was that night? Wow.
Yeah, it was at 11 o'clock, 10:30, 11. But his team leader, I just don't want to say too many names, but was instantly blinded by my brother's bone. He still has my brother's bone fused to his skull. He can see now, but still has my brother's bone in his face. We always call them the Bone Brothers.
One step better than Blood Brothers, bro.
Yeah, what's up, bitch? Bone Brothers. My brother's right leg was blown off above his knee. His left leg was turned into a fucking banana peel. His rifle was decimated. His uniform was blown off his body. His leg was found on the top of the fucking compound after the BDA the next day, which we threw into a fucking burn pit. PJs came, was it PJs or dust off? Anyways, helicopter came in, hot as fuck. And buddy Mark carried him to the bird. They came off the bird, supporting awesome fucking brothers, they didn't even know us, and they're just coming off blazing, and he died twice. They get a fast one on the bird. A fast one is his veins were so flat that they couldn't find space for an IV.
Oh, wow.
And so they had to jam. You know what a fast one is, right? You do.
Yeah.
You know, talk about the sternum thing. So they gave him a fast one in the sternum. And I was on one of my responsibilities on the team was the radio man. I did that and a couple other things, but I was the radio guy, and they called the bird took off. Sorry, let me just take a moment because this is fucking horrible. The bird took off. So everyone has a battle number, right?
Mhm.
And it's the last four of your social, and then it's your battalion and command company. So it was like his was like mine would be 84 or 86 Hotel Golf. Or Hotel Golf 84. No, it was reverse. I'm sorry. Hotel Golf 8486. His would be Hotel Golf 8485. And that was our battle numbers in case something happened. And the bird took off, middle of the fucking night. I'm down on the ground. I'm listening to the radio, and they call us battle number over the fucking radio. And they say,
Oh my God.
they said Hotel Golf 8485 Hero. And hero means dead.
Right.
And I passed out. I'm still like had my shit in my hands. I passed out. I couldn't feel my legs. I seriously have a complete mental blank until I was back at the patrol base. And I was sitting in front of this fire with my gunny, smoking cigarettes until the sun came up. And then about, like, my brother's dead, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But about 6 a.m., 6, something like that, we get a sat phone call, and they were telling me he's a double amp and he's alive. I'm like, oh fuck. And so right off the rip, my gunny was like making things work. And I thought I was going to like just like see him in the hospital, you know, thinking he's alive now, but has like no legs. Thank God, you know. And so organized this exodus for me out of Afghanistan to go to Germany. I went to Bastion first. Actually, I was like lily padding behind him. I went to Bastion first, and then I went to Landshut, Germany. I met him there. Little did I know I wasn't coming back. They didn't tell me I wasn't coming back. They were like kicking me out, you know, let me go home with my brother. And I didn't know. Yeah, they fucking got me. But I didn't care because I was with my brother. You know, we had our share. We had our fill. I would say that. And I remember eventually when the first time I saw him was in the hospital room in Landshut, Germany. And he's like all hooked up to his fucking wound. There's these things called wound vacs that like suck all the bullshit, like infection stuff out of your legs, like that. They attach it and stuff. And he's all like wrapped up. He looks like a fucking mummy. He's in a fucking hospital bed with like no leg. Imagine seeing your twin brother for the first time with no legs. It was like, holy shit. And so like, and I'm in my cami, still covered in shit and whatever the fuck. And I walk in, he looks at me, he's like, what the fuck are you doing here? And it was one of the best nights of my life because I heard him speak, you know, and I was like, fuck. All right. This is the only way God was able to bring us home, so I'm not going to complain. You know, because once I found out they wouldn't even let me back, and Max was alive and going home too, and I was taking him home as well with him, I was like, this is total God thing.
What an emotional roller coaster, dude.
It's the tip of the iceberg.
Like, I mean, just like going through that battle, right? So how did you real quick go back to that? Because I never knew. I like obviously we're family, but we never got that deep into it because I was kind of like, oh shit, he survived. That's all I really needed to know. And then he's told me some crazy details because out of the two of you guys, he's like the psycho, the wild man. He's the wild card for sure. I think, in my opinion.
For your money.
Yeah, God, man, I just like I don't want to share too much because like that's his story, but like
I know I'm careful too.
He's like he's just crazy. He's just wild, and How did you get them? Because he ended up in the middle of a bunch of grass, right? Like tall elephant grass, right? Like he was blown away, and it's not like he was out in the open. Like he got blown into bushes, right?
Yeah, away from the compound.
So how did you guys manage to uphold the compound and secure? I'm guessing you secured it, right? You guys ended up securing it and backing them off, or?
Well, when that happens, when something like that happens, your whole objective kind of changes. You know what I mean? So his team, at that point, your main goal is each other. And so the mission's done. You know what I mean? It's not done, but your priorities are your brothers, you know? And so it really, I would say safety and prudence kind of goes right out the fucking window. And you're almost blind to what's going on around you because you're just so dead laser focused on your buddies.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how it goes. I mean, it's like fuck everything else. You know, that's my guy. I'm not even seeing the trees around me right now. You know what I mean? That's my guy. And that's how it goes.
Well, I'm glad he made it. I mean, I never knew about him actually passing. I never knew about that.
Twice.
And that's intense. You just telling me that, like, even though
Yeah,
he's alive and I know his crazy ass as well, like, as well as he can be.
I know.
He like that kind of just hit hard, even you explaining it. And I'm glad you pushed through. And,
Oh, yeah. You always push through.
of course. Did it change your mentality at all?
Me?
Like, you kind of explained that, like, you had your fill and, you know, God letting you hear his voice, because I know you have faith, right? You're
Very much so. It changed me in the way that I used to have this mentality that nothing could ever happen to me. I was like that invincible, stupid little boy. And then once shit started happening on a real level, I lost my best friend. My brother lost his best friend. I lost my brother temporarily, came back with no legs. You know, it was just like I lost my mind as well, you know, for a while because of all that shit. And it gave me a very, very, very small perspective. It gave me, excuse me, I reversed it again because I'm dyslexic, a perspective about how small I really am and that it will happen to you. So just keep the faith and just, you know, all you have to do is live by small principles, but good ones.
yeah, and don't fold for anybody.
Don't fall for anybody ever.
Yeah, I had a conversation on here before. We kind of talked about principles and argued about whether principles change or don't change, or if they're for sale.
Yeah.
Everything has just like everything in life, everything has a breaking point and a vulnerability, but I think principles are very strong and very important. Like, I think you
I
have
think it's
a strong principled belief system and stick to it.
I believe it's the lifeblood of someone's character. I mean, like, you know, and the foundation of where you're going. If you don't have principle, what the fuck are you? I mean, who are you? You know, and it's like same thing with morals. Like, how do you define yourself? You don't have at least something to give a definition for your character. And it's just like I don't understand the people. I mean, there's like sociopaths out there and shit like that, like fucking psychos. But like for like the lazy bitch in life that's like literally just like droning around with no fucking care and like a selfish, self-entitled asshole like the whole generation is now. And it's like fuck you, dude. Like in the most non-confrontational way, I want to beat the fuck out of those guys.
Do it in VR. I'm trying to think of
Yeah. I'm just mentally ahead, but no, just because I'm not an asshole, I'm not gonna go picking fights. But I hate these fucking guys, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you went out and kicked ass. Not everyone's got that in them. If the whole world did that, what would we all be doing?
Kicking ass.
Like, you got to keep that in mind too. Some of them serve purpose, you know, serve their own purpose.
Yeah, it's like
You
bees in
fought
the
so that
grass.
person can walk around and not care about anything. Let's put it.
Everyone, you know, everyone has their own walk. I'm not saying that.
You put in the work so these people don't have to care about shit or really have to realize what it's like to go actually hunt your own food, or, you know.
Right. Well, not everyone. You're right. Everyone has their own. It's all relative, like I said before. It's like everyone's meant for certain things. I think I'm banking off of, or what I'm trying to define is the mentality behind like not having any fucking definition of being a good human being. You know?
Kind of tough these days, man. The odds are stacked against them. You're raised from the very beginning to think that you need a 9 to 5. That's the only way to live, is to give your life to a company. And then while you're in school, they're not teaching you anything that helps you. I mean, like, they're not giving you any kind of advice for long term. You go through, how many times do you do math? Algebra?
Yeah. Yeah.
Trigonometry. Have you ever done the Pythagorean theorem when you were out there? Were you ever slope intercept?
But I can't put those equations on here.
Exactly.
Out of respect.
You had to learn them in your field, right? Like you had to learn.
What's funny is I was horrible in math all through school until it applied to something that was like getting a fucking like headshot.
That's kind of my point, dude. That's how a lot of things are. Is like I can soak up things like a sponge if I'm interested.
Right.
If you sit me down and tell me that I have to do this many years of school and then go do this many years and pay for school, and then I don't even get to see where it leads, what it does, what it's like how fucking crazy is it? Some people go to college for 8 years to be a doctor and they've never even shadowed a doctor. Like they don't know like it or not. Like they spend, and granted, like this is a different type of personality. It works out great for a lot of them, but it's like, what if you did all that and then you realize you hated it? What if you're like, I didn't think I'd be dealing with diabetics all day. Like I thought I was going to be changing lives, and it's like, no, you're just.
I gotta tell you a story on that. I mean, if you're, I'm listening, but I got a funny story.
It's just like, just to drive the point. It's just like it's how our society works. It's obviously a pretty good society, but like, then you turn on the TV and what do you see? It's like all these stupid trends. There's nothing like really of value on like TV unless you're actively searching. Like people at my work think I'm crazy because I eat and I eat healthy food. So I actually come into work with a bag full of like meal prep or I'm not only eating once throughout the day. Like they're like, oh, there's this bag. What lunch number is this? And I'm like, I'm eating healthy and I'm like timing my meals out and I'm studying what I'm eating. You go your whole life, how many times do you have to eat a day? How much food do you have to eat a day? And you don't even know what you're putting in your mouth. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's just so many angles of that. I just feel like the odds are stacked against you. To bring that full circle, when you see those people walking la-di-da-di down the street, they're kind of programmed, they're kind of NPCs, but that's because you fought for the system to work. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
it's
there's
weird
a
though.
slight blessing in that,
There is. I always look at the silver lining. It's cliche, but like sorry, fucking cats are fighting. It's funny, hilarious, like two little lions, but they go out every night. I always see the silver lining because like there's so many things. Lately, I've been quieting down, like internally, and just like listening to. I've been calling it the little whispers, because I've been listening to these little whispers in life, and it's been just like, falling into place. Even though I'm not in the greatest spot in life right now, I know that, but that's on my own. It's my own fucking consequences. But even that being said, things are like quietly falling into place in like very directive ways, like on a universal level. And so like I want to go down a fucking rabbit hole right now, but it's amazing when you stop. It really is amazing when you stop and just don't try and define your own next second. Let it come to you and see what it means. I mean, I'm talking second by second, because I have like these major panic attacks these days anymore. I came out of nowhere, but I found this technique that I can find relief in every second. So I find relief. Oh, there it is, and then there it is again. There it is again. Maybe 2 seconds later, but then it builds on relief. It's second by second, moment by moment. When you stop yourself like that in life, I've learned recently, which is crazy. If you just stop and find your second by second moments, it will change your fucking life.
And then I think those seconds, because I've been through something very similar, those seconds turn to minutes. Those minutes turn to hours. Yep. Hours turn to days. But then, I do think even when you get to where you have good days, it's still worth checking in on those seconds,
Oh, it is. I make it a practice now because it kind of conditions you. It's like body hardening.
Mm-hmm.
Keep checking in on the seconds, and that just becomes your way.
What's the importance of your story, you think? Like,
in general, or what? Like
you got to see importance of like your story and everything you've done. I mean, we're just scratching the iceberg. I mean, you have a whole military career, a whole nother career we can get into one day. And, now you're starting a whole nother thing. If, I guess, like, how would you want to be remembered? Your legacy, whether it's for military, for whatever.
I'm taking another thing for this one because I got a good answer for you.
Doesn't mean you gotta take another one.
No, it does, because tomorrow I'm gonna puke on the mats. That's okay.
Oh, you're coming in tomorrow. For the listeners at home, I'm talking this guy into trying out jiu-jitsu and see if it makes his civilian life any better. And he came in once. I just heard the cork pop.
Yeah.
You said it's Eagle Rare? Good choice. Hard to find these days.
Sometimes. So how do I want to be remembered? So I actually have since I was a kid, I'm doing something else too, so I'm going to face the ceiling.
So while you're doing that, let me kind of preface this a little bit. Actually, it's kind of deep. I'll just get your answer. Go ahead.
All right. My purpose. So I just had this weird ever since. So this is gonna get weird and deep, but I don't care anymore. I always remember feeling different as a kid, not in a weird way, not like I was a fucking creep, but like just different. And I have this weird memory. My dad would come home from work, and my twin brother, and I, we'd wait for him to come home. And the first thing we'd do is go play football in the front yard. And my dad would like let us beat the fucking shit out of each other in the front yard, like fostering like boyhood, manhood, whatever. And I remember he would just like tell us to run these fucking routes and stuff. And there was this bush by the corner of the house. And he always remember he would like tell us this route and be like, run for the bush. I just remember running these routes and but like, it was like if someone was not running the route, if it was me running the route, it was Max's mission to fuck me up. But if I was if he was running the route, it was my mission to fuck him up. And I just remember those days of feeling different. Like, man, I can do whatever the fuck I want. Because my dad instilled this deep, like, sense of, honestly, not giving a fuck, And my mom instilled a deep sense of kindness. So it was like this weird combination of wisdom. And it, like, formed into this, like, servitude for me. I was always taught to be humble. So my dad would tell me to be a leader, and my mom would tell me to be humble consistently. And it was like the two words that rang in my head my entire growth, and humble and a leader. And it led me into such servitude, like a love for servitude. I loved the feeling, not even in a selfish way. I didn't ever want any return. I never expected any return to anything I ever fucking did. But I loved the feeling personally, even if it was in quiet corners, of helping somebody, being somebody that like when they couldn't do it for themselves, you do it for them, or like being in need and being the guy that like, or even leading people out of their own darkness, picking a coward up even, you know what I mean? Like there's so many things I enjoyed, I guess, just kind of enriching humanity and like just being the one. I have so many stories too after my career, but I just found I've always had, if it's my story to be told, I will say the deepest love I've ever had in my entire lifetime until I die is serving.
Like the country or just people in general?
Human beings.
That's deep. I was going to even ask you too, and you already like struck over it, was giving back after everything you've done. Does it ever cross your mind to give back?
Do every day. I'll tell you a stupid story too, like this. Like I'm on like a stupid level at this shit. Like I was driving to the corner store for my God, motherfucker. Hold on, you see me?
No, it's black, but
Hold on, here we go.
I'm under the bed. I'm under the bed.
Yeah, I dropped the shit. I was driving to the corner store for some stuff, and I turned the corner in the alleyway, and there's this guy. He's in a wheelchair, but he's in scrubs. And I recognized him from like years ago when I was a cop. I remember talking to him like in the front of the same store, but he's in the alleyway now. And I knew he was a veteran. He was Air Force, something like that. No, he was Air Force, but he was like something like PJs. He was a pretty good spot in the Air Force. And I just decided to stop. It's just like things speak to me anymore, and just like about being human, because no one has fucking empathy anymore. And I rolled down the window, and I was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he looked at me and started crying, and he's like, "No, I'm not." I go, "What's wrong?" And he just went. I'm like in the truck, put the parking brake on, window down in the fucking driver's seat, and he just went through this whole fucking thing about he just needed to get off his chest. And I go, "Hey, what do you need right now?" I go, "I didn't care about being an enabler right now. I'll be honest." I was like, "What do you need right now today to make you feel better?" He's like, a Yingling," and I was like, "What do you smoke?" He's like, "Lucky Strike." So I go, right here, and this is like last week or whatever. And so I went in, I got him 2 big Yinglings, 2 packs of Lucky Strikes, and I got him 2 scratch-offs just in case he got lucky. You should have seen this guy. He was like a little kid, and I never saw him again. It's just like it's those little moments. Like it doesn't take much to be a fucking human.
I always wonder if that's going to harm them or help them more.
Well, I don't. Sometimes I don't care because sometimes people need their vices in that moment.
I do agree with that. And that being said, like, in your opinion, what could society do better for vets and for veterans? For both, bro.
That was a good one. um, uh, hmm.
Like,
I
do you
would
think?
say,
Oh, go ahead.
listen. Just listen. Like, listen to exactly what they're saying, because everyone wants to act like they understand, and they do not. There's people on different levels of having trouble. There's people on different levels of what they experienced. But we have a bad habit as people looking from the outside in, not listening to exactly what the fuck they're saying. Because I've had the experience too. Like, if I say a fucking word, I say a word for its exact definition. Everyone wants to make their own interpretation of what someone's trying to say.
Yeah, dude.
They're looking for an answer to return when they're not even listening to what the fuck they're saying to begin with.
It drives me crazy. I tell so many people, like, I'm just very, I guess, I'm finding out or I'm hearing, I'm just like kind of straight to the point, straight up. But I'm like so sick of saying something, and then it's like their interpretation, and that's what gets spread.
Correct. And it's just a cascade
Verbatim
of
what I
fucking
said.
yeah.
I need new tires on my car. Okay, well, we can fix this. No, I'm here for tires.
No, I just said I need fucking tires. It's like exactly.
Thanks for your help. I mean, that's like just a small brush of what.
Yeah. It's called people not paying the fucking attention and thinking about themselves.
What about like, and I texted you about this the other day, but like, I've researched it a little bit just because of the trauma I had with like anxiety and going through, that dark time I had.
Yeah.
Back then, like my options were pills, which were absolute no-go for me, especially with friends I lost on them. I just couldn't. To this day, I can't comfortably even take an ibuprofen. Like I always double look at it, like I'm like, and I don't know, like sometimes I get flashes of like my friends taking pills, and I'm just taking ibuprofen. But like, so that was a no-go. I never really thought like drinking or smoking or anything would help me. There was a period of time where drinking did help. Not long term. It wasn't like a good long term play. It was just a short breathe.
It's not a good route.
Yeah, for sure. But like now, from what I'm reading up, there's like ketamine therapy, there's MDMA therapy, and then I think they're also doing stuff with hallucinogenics, like to give you a light trip and then guide you through the trip to help
reset your fucking brain and stuff.
Yeah. Do you see that being like something in the future that might help?
Yes, absolutely. I won't say names, but like I've had friends that it has completely changed their life. I've had my own experience with certain things, that I will say that have also completely altered my ability to manage the craziness. Like I used to, so I don't want to say too much, but like, no, I completely agree. Everything from psychedelics to mushroom, I would say is, me personally speaking, very important. I have never done the ketamine, but like I have a buddy that has, and he does it consistently. And it's like, it's his number one thing. I've never done, but it's like his number one thing, and it's something about something that resets the brain beyond what we're fucking injected with every fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And so, or our own process. I think what it does, my experience is what it did is it completely resetted my ability, my process. It's like my OODA loop. You know what I mean? There's a thing, you know what an OODA loop is?
I'm gonna go on a limb here just from my experience. Is it those like circles that you get stuck in?
Yeah.
Like the
And it's just, you can't, and so it's like so it like breaks the OODA loop,
it's
and
you got your trigger, and then you got your reaction, and then you got like your like solution, and your panic is somewhere in the solution, and then like by the time you get done with your like solution, the trigger starts again, and then you're back in the circle.
it's like then the speed picks up, and it's like fuck until you pass out. But it's so that I've experienced enables you to, it just gets rid of the fucking, it just breaks the cycle. It's just like bam, and then it's almost like coming out of a fucking good nap, and then
Mm-hmm.
you're like, I'm happy right now just because I see sunlight. It's that kind of feeling.
So that's good. I hope those things like I hope those things become more popular and actually end up being. It seems like society has wanted us stuck on pills and stuck in that loop. Pharmaceutical, as we're kind of finding out, it kind of seems like those loops are being exposed. I mean, we're starting to see like prescribing people like happy drugs don't really make them happy, and you can't off of them. You know what I mean?
Well, it's all about control.
Right. And I think the person has to have their own willpower to get out of it. Like, I don't think that they could.
Yes.
I think that's what kind of sucks, man. It's like you go into like not my experience, but like other people's experience seems like, man, I'm having these issues, having these thoughts. Everyone I see in society is happy. Every commercial I see is a perfect person with perfect skin and perfect lifestyle. And it's like, and I'm not perfect. And I'm just not feeling right. And instead of someone being like, man, that's okay, that's natural, like you go somewhere and they just tell you, well, I'm going to give you this. And then we'll up your dose. And I'll check in with you in a few weeks and I'll give you another one. And then pretty soon it's like, man, it's been 5 years. Still struggling here. And no one has ever sat down and talked to you about your problem. Like no one has.
Higher dose though. Yeah.
Nobody has said like, what bothers you? Like, where's the loop? Like, what starts it? Why? Well, is that like a trigger? Maybe that's something you can avoid. Maybe that's something you could build on. Maybe that's something you can take a step every day towards conquering, And
yeah, exactly. Yep.
Crazy to me. So I hope there's, I'm just being optimistically hoping that like that's something that grows and is actually legitimate.
I think so too. I believe in that just because I've experienced it for myself, but I also believe in cognitive, instead of even anything being on board, like cognitive exercises, those deep mental exercises that like you're your own solution. It takes a lot. That's why I started doing a lot of meditation lately. A shit ton of fucking meditation. And it's like, it enables you, it's like passing clouds, it's like when the crazy shit comes in, you're able to just like, acknowledge it and just let it float away, but you keep your center.
Yeah.
Those type of cognitive things are much more powerful than any drug or substance that.
Healthy habits.
Correct.
And building healthy habits and continuing to build healthy habits, I think are tremendous. I don't think
they're imperative.
It's kind of funny too, and not to end this on a dark note or make it dark. But I've just had buddies. I've been talking to a buddy for a while, and I guess it's kind of like a thing with firefighters is they get kind of, it's easy for the trauma to get to them.
Yep.
And we were talking about like patterns, and I was just kind of like interested, like, what do you notice? Are people generally happy? Do they feel fulfilled for helping people? And he was kind of saying that it seems like the ones who don't take care of themselves outside of work are the ones that end up having the hardest problem processing the job. And the healthy habits, I think, is the difference, you know?
That's huge. You just kind of struck a chord with me. That's so true because there's a huge difference. You know, obviously I was a cop for 12 years, but like so kind of same relative difference. And that is so true. If you don't have anything to push yourself out of, you have to have a balance. It's like you just got to you have to have something constructive that's not, so you're not matching your personal life with what you're experiencing. Because if you do, then you're just living it the whole fucking time. Like, you know, there's guys, girls that all they do is go to those types of jobs, go drink at a bar, and go right back fucking into it. And it's so, like, yeah, of course, you're just going to be fucked up. All you're doing is, like, not processing anything and going right back to the same shit. You have to have something constructive. You have to have you have to have a life beyond it because not that it's just a job, but it's just a fucking job. It's a calling. I will say this. For me, it's a calling. And anyone who's in that type of jobs, it has to be a calling because you have to keep the right people in the right places. You know what I mean? But at the same time, as time goes on, you realize even through your calling, it is just a job. And you have to separate yourself and preserve yourself or else you're fucked.
Yeah,
You're going to fall to all the fucking darkness if you don't preserve yourself.
it's true. And not only like find purpose, but, you know, it's important. I mean, shit. I mean, we can go on for hours about it, but I just think,
I know.
do you think there's merit to that is what I'm saying, which is,
Yes, there's absolute merit because for me, going along, personally, and along the lines of servitude that I've found since a kid, the merit is the sacrifice. Whether it's be you physically in one fucking incident or your mental health because you decided to do it for so many years, the merit's in sacrifice.
okay. Well, where do we go from here, Jake? What's next for you?
Wherever the fuck we want.
Perfect interlude into exactly what you've been saying the whole time. Just different and doing whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing so much, dude. And I appreciate you coming along. And I appreciate you thinking of me in your civilian life. Now, if anyone's struggling or going through anything, I've said it a million times on here, but find someone to talk to and build healthy habits one day at a time. What do you got, Jake? What the hell am I thinking? Go ahead. I got one more thing before we
Yeah.
born with it.
I think it can be encouraged. I think you're either born with it or it can be encouraged. Because fortunately enough, I don't know. I think, to be honest with you, and this is not disrespectful to anybody that's listening, I think I'm like on the fucking spectrum. Like I seriously, like to this day, I believe like something's kind of going on. But I've always had this weird mental toughness, almost like a Forrest Gump level. And but I will say there are certain people that I don't think have a sense of it, either because they're raised a certain way, trauma, their own mental illness. I don't know, but I know sometimes I don't think it can be taught because you have to make certain decisions. That's a decision you have to make for yourself. It's your own mind, it's your own soul. But I think it can be encouraged because, like, I mean, if you walk along someone's side and even just lead by example, just be a quiet, picture for them to watch, or say subtle, just implant certain things. You can bring someone out of their darkness and encourage them. If you encourage someone enough in the right way, if you find their own frequency that they're on or their channel, you say the right things, do the right things, find the right things that they're interested in, you can bring someone out of their darkness. inevitably it's on their own to make that choice to take the step out the door.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Oh, of course. I've told you about it's so easy to bring the horse to the water, but I have a
Yeah, those fucking drink. Yeah.
Well, dude, if your ass ever makes it to the mats, you're more than welcome to encourage me to push harder anytime.
Sounds like a motherfucking plan.
Don't let me be a little ass bitch. Well, thanks for doing this, bro. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to you puking on the mats.
Me too. There's plenty to go around.
Thanks a lot, brother. I appreciate it.
Love you, man.
Love you too, dude.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
All right.